Before analysis begins, the designer has decided that the lower waist was not appealing and wants the pattern maker to raise it to the natural waistline. With that settled, the skirt is a very intriguing pattern-making challenge. There are a number of creative elements that make up the skirt. And remember, it's not only what your eye sees, but also what it does not see. For instance, what lies under the skirt that will control the fit? Think about it. As you analyze the design, take notes next to the sketch in the text. After reading the questions below, choose the principle or principles that you would apply to the development of the pattern. With this information, lightly plot the lines on the pattern as shown on the sketch. You will be comparing the notes from design analysis and plotting with those given in the next step. Where did the front waist darts go? You will see in the following steps. The angled style line starts at the top of the waistband, crosses the center front, and turns and ends below the hip level at side seam. This creates an inset with color bands in parallel seams. Gathers radiate out from the inset to zero at the waist and side seam and ends about center front as one-sided fullness. From this point, the gathers appear to be unequal in fullness and falls vertically toward the floor. This is an application of Principle 2, Added Fullness. The hemline is extended and is a parallel with the angle of the inset. This is also an application of Principle 2 by adding more material to the original length of the skirt. The flared skirt hangs freely, which means that a partial front underskirt is needed to secure the back skirt. The top of the inset creates a tunnel loop to give the appearance that the waistband is going through it. Now compare the plot of your pattern with the illustration, then erase the lightly drawn lines and continue. Draw the inset using the dimensions that are given, or use your sense of line and balance when drawing the style lines. Draw a line 1 1/4 inches up from side waist and continue the line parallel with the waistline. Dot mark 1/4 inch below the center front waist labeled Y. Place a ruler at Y touching the dart leg and draw a line meeting at Z. Continue about 2 inches past Y, labeled X, and from X draw a line to the side seam ending about 1.5 inches below the hip guideline, called the horizontal balance line. Touch the pause button, complete the pattern, and when finished, push play to continue. It will be necessary to draw the dart points to the style line. They will be closed without creating fullness. If they were to close at the present location, flare would form at the hemline, and the sketch does not indicate flare at the hemline. The other waist darts are removed by drawing the dart intake at an angle with the inset style line. The dart will be cut away when the pattern parts are separated. The other dart is trimmed from the side seam. Mark gather control notches where the inset style line crosses the center front and at the intersecting line with the hip guideline. Touch the pause button, complete the pattern, and when finished, push play to continue. Cut the inset style line from the pattern along with the dart intake. When separated from the pattern, trim the dart excess from the inset style line and from the side seam as shown by the shaded pattern pieces. Place notch marks for reference when seams are added. Touch the pause button, complete the pattern, and when finished, push play to continue. Cut one leg of the first dart through to the end of the pattern. Slide the dart leg along the side of its other leg, stopping at the waistline, and tape. The closed dart is illustrated as broken lines. The other end will not be even. Repeat the process for the second dart. Dot mark the centers of each uneven line and draw a smooth blending line touching each mark. Trace a section of the skirt from center front to side seam to make a copy for the front underskirt pattern. Touch the pause button, complete the pattern, and when finished, push play to continue. The new hemline is drawn parallel with the angle of the inset style line. The direction of the slash lines are drawn on the pattern exactly as shown by the angle of the gathers on the sketch. The slash lines radiate from the waist and side seam in the direction of the inset style line. Caution: avoid directing a slash line to X point. It would be difficult to find the center of the point after being spread for fullness. The flares at the hemline are directed vertically to the inset style line. The pattern will have a different pattern shape after it has been spread. The question most often asked is where to draw the grain line. The answer is to continue the grain line up from its original location at the center front hemline. Touch the pause button, complete the pattern, and when finished, push play to continue. To determine the amount of added fullness desired, measure the length of the style line where the gathers appear on one side of the skirt. Add to the measurement 1.5 or 2 times the length. Divide the added fullness by the number of slashes drawn on the pattern. The answer will be the space between each slash. Cut and separate the pattern at the center front line. To create fullness on one side of the waistline and side seam, slash to, but not through the pattern's edge. Place the slash pattern on paper, spread each section, and secure. Continue the original hemline on the paper underneath. This line controls the cut panels as they are separated from the remaining skirt pattern. Cut through the numbered panels. Using the same amount of space, place the panels on the paper matching with the hem guideline. Place push pins at the edge of each panel in preparation for adding more fullness at the hemline. Touch the pause button, complete the pattern, and when finished, push play to continue. To add additional flare to the hemline, pivot each panel to the desired amount, perhaps 3 to 4 inches. After spreading, tape each panel to secure. Dot mark the center of each panel as a guide for blending the hemline. Touch the pause button, complete the pattern, and when finished, push play to continue. Add 1¼ inch at the side of the flare for a full back facing. The hem allowance really depends on the finish desired. Here are a few suggestions, and the suggestions could also apply to the side seam. It could be finished with a baby roll hem, could be marrow edged, have lace seam tape, face the complete hemline, or fold and top stitch, which is the least desirable finish. Add a 1/2 inch seam allowance on all remaining areas, mark notches, and draw the grain line. Touch the pause button, complete the pattern, and when finished, push play to continue. Trace 2 copies of the inset pattern. The second pattern is for the lining. Mark the style lines using the measurements given. The width of section A is 1¼ inches and is drawn parallel with the shape of the inset. The width of section B is 1 inch and is drawn parallel with the shape of inset A. Section C is the pattern. Cut sections B and C from the patterns. Touch the pause button, complete the pattern, and when finished, push play to continue. Section A is illustrated. Mark all notches. If you did not mark the notches, do so now. Touch the pause button, complete the pattern, and when finished, push play to continue. Add seam allowances, grain lines, and notches to each section. The first inset, add 1/8 inch at the top before adding a 1/4 inch seam allowance. The 1/4 inch seam ends 1/2 inch above the guideline. Add a 1/4 inch seam allowance to all other seams. The word slash appears at the inverse corners of the patterns A and B. It is more than a notch. It is a slash that ends to within a 1/16 inch of the stitch line. I would suggest that before slashing into the fabric that you cut a 1-inch square of fusible interfacing. The interfacing should be fused over the inverse corners. This strengthens the corner when slashed. The slash allows the fabric to open sufficiently so that the fabric can easily change direction in creating a perfect point in the finished garment. Touch the pause button, complete the pattern, and when finished, push play to continue. Use the second copy of the inset pattern for the lining. Separate the pattern along the lines drawn earlier. Add a 1/4 inch where shown. Add a 1/2 inch to the remaining patterns. Add notches and grain lines. Touch the pause button, complete the pattern, and when finished, push play to continue. Trace the front underskirt pattern. Add 1 1/4 inch at the hemline. Add 3/4 inch as a fold back facing, and add a 1/2 inch to the remaining sides of the pattern. Touch the pause button, complete the pattern, and when finished, push play to continue. Trace the basic back skirt. Add 3/4 inch at the center back. Notch for a 7-inch zipper. Add 1 1/4 inch for hem allowance, and add a 1/2 inch to the remaining pattern. Touch the pause button, complete the pattern, and when finished, push play to continue. The belt is in 2 pieces, with a 1/4 inch seam at the top for the insertion of the tunnel loop of the inset piece. Place notches for the insert as measured out from the center front of the waistband. Touch the pause button, complete the pattern, and when finished, push play to continue. Cut the patterns in muslin or design fabric of choice for the first fitting. Where adjustments are made, be sure to correct the patterns before cutting a second garment. Here are some sewing suggestions. Before slashing the inverse corners of the inset section, fuse a 1-inch square of interfacing at the points. Sew the sections together. Press the seams open. With the right sides of the fabrics facing, sew the lining to the tunnel loop ending about a 1/16 inch above the hem allowance and backstitch. Do not stitch across the top. Turn the lining right side out and press. Touch the pause button, complete the pattern, and when finished, push play to continue. Finish the edges of the flared skirt and finish the fold back of the underskirt. Press. Gather the flared skirt with the right sides facing the fabric. Pin the flared skirt to the stitch line and not to the cut line of the front underskirt. Stitch to the gathered skirt. The flared skirt will not be stitched into the side seam when they are joined to the back. Touch the pause button, complete the pattern, and when finished, push play to continue. Sew the inset to the gathered skirt starting at seam allowance of the waistline and backstitch. Notice that the flared skirt ends at the seam allowance of the inset piece. Touch the pause button, complete the pattern, and when finished, push play to continue. Sew the back seam and stitch the zipper at this time. Sew the side seams of the back skirt to the side seams of the front skirt. Remember that the flare is not stitched into the side seam. Fold the tunnel loop over to bring the seam allowance upward in alignment with the side seam allowance of the waistline. Touch the pause button, complete the pattern, and when finished, push play to continue. It is time to stitch the lower part of the lining to the back side of the skirt. First, press the seams under from waist to X-point and from X-point to side seam. Pin the upper part to the raw edges at waistline for stitching. Hand stitch the folded sides to the inset. At the side seam, either cover the total side seam or cover one side of the seam. Touch the pause button, complete the pattern, and when finished, push play to continue. Pin the waistband to the waistline, matching the notches. Touch the pause button, complete the pattern, and when finished, push play to continue. You would then fold the waistband upward and pin the tunnel loop between the notches. You would pin the other waistband to the top of the first waistband, matching notches, and then you would stitch to complete the waistband in the garment. Now you are ready to cut the pattern in muslin or in design fabric of choice for the first fitting. Correct the fit where needed and adjust the patterns before cutting a second garment. Fuse interfacing on the belt and the inset panels. This completes the instruction. Hope you are successful. See you later.